Chelsea is unprepared for this video, but it's gonna get done. Hello everyone, how's it going today? Chelsea Face here. I woke up a little earlier than usual because I think it's daylight savings time now. So I want to do my October wrap up with you guys. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start. I read quite a few books this month. A lot of them were library borrows and graphic novels, manga, stuff like that. So I'll probably just put a picture up because I don't have them with me right now. But I did want to talk about them with you for just a moment and let you know what I thought of them. I have my coffee here because it's early. I have my phone pulled up Goodreads. First, I read Mooncakes. This is a graphic novel comic by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Zhu. It's a story about some witches who live together like a family, and then there is a shape-shifting, I think a werewolf, who is one of the young witches' friends. It has a lot of non-binary representation or gay representation, and it's really, really good. I gave this 5 stars easily. It was beautifully illustrated. The colors were gorgeous, very fall, but not just like browns and yellows and greens and stuff. It had a lot of color, but also it was very fall. And I read this at the very beginning of October, and it was so perfect for setting the mood for the month. It was gorgeous. It was so cute. There was a little romance between a couple of the characters. It was just too precious. The characters all had their own unique look. I like that about it because sometimes with graphic novels, people tend to have the same look of certain characters. Like I guess they just don't have enough character design. But it was so cute. I really recommend it. It has a little bit of baking and cooking in it. It does have a little bit of spooky element to it and a thing they have to overcome. And I just really, really think it's a great graphic novel for all ages. I think that anyone would enjoy this, especially if you're looking for more representation in the community. The next thing I read was Volume 5 of Ouran High School Host Club, the manga. This is by Bisco Hattori, and I gave it 5 stars. This is a good novel. I have liked most of the ones I've read so far. They've either been 3, 4, or 5 stars. This one was really, really good. Okay, this is the volume that is my favorite out of the ones I know from the anime. So in Volume 5, this is the one that includes the episode where Haruhi goes on a date with one of the boys, if you know which one I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It is my favorite episode of the show, and I couldn't wait to read it because I knew it might include little things that were left out. It was pretty much panel for panel on that, but oh my god, it was so cute. I love those boys so much. I love this particular one that went on the date, and it was just so cute and so sweet and so precious, and it makes me ship them together, but I know that that's probably not at all how it's going to go. But I am excited to continue. I don't know when I'll pick up another volume, but I'm excited to continue that. The next thing I read was Anya's Ghost. This is by Vera Broskall. This is a graphic novel, like a small little graphic novel, and I picked it up from the library as well. It was very cute. I gave it 4 stars. I like the art. I think it was pretty easily understood. It was a more simplistic art style, more cartoony than anime or stylized. It had more of like a uniform look to it. Not to say that's bad or anything, but it was very monotone, so it had lots of grays and like medium mute blues and blacks and whites. It was that kind of style, and it was about this girl named Anya who is very embarrassed and ashamed of herself and her life. I forget what culture she has, what she's from, but it's very cool to hear about her family and like the things that her culture does and represent. But she's kind of ashamed. She's in that teenage stage of like she's too good for everything, and she's annoyed by her parents and family. She has this one friend at school who's the same as her. She's like ashamed to be seen with this person, so she's just going through that teenage stage of embarrassed of everything and too good for stuff. Pretty typical. And she meets this ghost because she falls down a well, and I'm not going to tell you all the details, but she starts having a leg up in life, and then something happens and lives get threatened. So it gets really scary at one point. I was like, this is pretty spooky for a kid's comic. I think it's for kids. I'd have to look at the age rating on it, but it was pretty spooky and a little bit of actual horror to it. But I really recommend it. I think that a lot of people should be reading this, especially around Halloween. It's really, really cute, and I liked the overarching story and what it was trying to teach people, so I like that a lot. The next thing I read was Infidel. This is a one trade paperback, like 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 volume, but it's all contained in one paperback, by Porsnack. Let me see if I can pronounce these names. Porsnack Pichichut and Aaron Campbell. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at names. I gave this 4 stars. I want to read you the little insert here on Goodreads just so you understand what this is about, because I don't want to say something wrong. A haunted house story for the 21st century, Infidel shows an American Muslim woman and her multiracial neighbors who move into a building haunted by entities that feed off xenophobia. It's basically that little bitty snippet. And I was expecting it to be a little bit different. I was expecting it to be like a family of Muslim people moving into an apartment and then being terrorized by people, and then thinking that it was supernatural. But no, it was actually very different. It was, most of the main cast were of different cultures and races and religions, and some of them had left their faith and were still friends with each other, and some of them were still very devout. It was very interesting to see them interact with each other, and they were always talking about how this person's racist and these people hate us. And I understand where they were coming from, but there wasn't a whole lot of examples of that happening at the very beginning. Like, I was just kind of like, okay, well, they're saying these things, but there's no examples of it happening. So I don't know. It kind of felt weird at the beginning, but then as it kept going, you kept seeing examples of things happening from behind the scenes and people from the past who had died who were very xenophobic and racist. And I really, really liked the horror of this. It was so scary looking. The visuals in this of the horror were absolutely terrifying, and definitely not for the weak of heart. I think that it could be really, really scary to some people. There were some very, very tragic accidents that happened in this to some characters that made it look like people of these religions and races were bad people. So, just be prepared if you're not for, scary visuals or visuals that make people look guilty when they're not, and people being blamed for things that they didn't do, because that's going to happen. That's kind of how it always happens, right? I liked it, but I did think that there was one character, this one woman, who was just on her high horse the whole time about how people were always just so racist to her. And while I know that that's a thing, and it probably happened in the past and future of the graphic novel that doesn't even exist, there wasn't a whole lot of examples of it happening in the book. She was kind of mean to people before they had even done anything to her. I found that kind of odd. Like, I think that the graphic novel had a point, and it was trying to prove a point. People are gross, and they're always going to be gross, even though we can try to change them, and it's fine to try to change people, but sometimes people are just racist and awful. But I don't think that her character really was good for that story. She just had certain character flaws that didn't help the case, if you get what I'm talking about. I don't mean to be insensitive with the way I say that. I'm trying not to say anything wrong, but I just want to be honest in my review and say that she kind of was, I think, making it look like she was the bad guy in that part. But overall, it was very good. I think that it's got a lot of popularity for a reason. I just wish that it had been a little bit longer, because I think it could have been a little bit more fleshed out, but it was fantastic. Highly, highly recommend this. The next thing I read was a graphic novel / comic by Kami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo. It is Teen Titans Raven. This is a new series that I think a few people are working on. It's the Teen Titans, but like a more modern twist on them, and doing like their origin story, and then I think it might start a series together, like a new Teen Titans series, which I am all about. I loved this so much. I gave it 4 stars. It was very, very good. I think the art was absolutely stunning, beautiful, gorgeous. The color palette is dependent on who the character is. So this one was very purple and gray and black. And there were some touches of green or blue in there, but very, very rarely used. I think it was used for emphasis on certain things, but it was so good. I don't really have a preference for Raven that much. I like her, but she wasn't really my favorite. But this made me really, really like her and identify with her and see her as like a real human being and a young girl who lost her mother and is struggling to deal with certain things in her life that she doesn't understand. And so I really, really want to pick up the Beast Boy one because that one is the next one. And I think it just came out because I saw it at the bookstore yesterday, but it looks really cool. So I highly recommend these if you're interested. The next thing that I read was The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. I actually have this one. I read The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. So this is a story about, I received this art from Goodreads I want to give away, by the way. This is a horror book. It's a story about this young girl, and I think she's in high school, and her friends, she has 2 or 3 friends, and they go to a party because she sneaks out of the house. She has lost her whole family, so she lives with these 2 foster parents, and she's very thankful to them, but she also doesn't love them. So it's she's trying to show them, thank you, but also I don't like you that way. So she kind of rebels sometimes, but not in a mean, hateful way. But she kind of just tells them she's going to a party, and she goes, and they're not mean about it. They kind of understand that she's been through a lot. So she goes and with these friends, and some of them smoke pot, do normal teenage things, and some of them are good people and some of them aren't. But there are 2 guys that she's with, and apparently some kind of outbreak happens at this big party that's in this giant cave, which, first of all, I would never go to a party like that in a cave in the middle of nowhere with no electricity, no lighting or anything, no cell service. Are you kidding me? That's a cool idea for a book, but I don't think teenagers would want to go to a party where they had no cell service. That just doesn't sound realistic to me. But anyways, they go. And this outbreak of some kind of zombie something happens, and people start killing each other, and things happen, and some people escape and some don't. And then it turns out to be this company who is involved. And there's a lot of science fiction in this as well, which I did not think was going to be in there. So I did, I think it slowed down a little bit towards the middle end half of the novel, trying to explain all of the science fictionness. I wish it had just been sprinkled throughout the book instead of just a big info dump in the middle of it, because it does slow it down a lot. This is a very fast-paced zombie action, adventure, horror, romance kind of book. It has all of that. It's a pretty good fleshed out idea until you get to that part. And then I think it just kind of goes, ugh, I don't really care because, they kind of tell you, so you already know what happened. They're just re-explaining certain things. There's a little bit of repetition in this as far as, I don't know, certain things. I can't even remember what they were, but I remember being okay, I know this. And I think maybe the final copy finished did a little better. I don't know if this is how it was fully printed, but when it came to me, it was a little bit repetitive, and I did find a couple of typing errors in it. And I do like it though. I think that you should check it out. It's a pretty good book. It does have a couple of trigger warnings in it, of course, death and blood and gore and stuff. But I do think that there are, in horror lately, I've noticed in books, I'm sure it has always been there, but I don't typically read books like that. Some authors feel the need to be obscenely nasty in the way that the characters are as people. And I understand that people are not great and perfect all the time, but I don't particularly like reading about characters who are sexist, racist, homophobic, nasty people, and they're the main character because we're supposed to like them and hope that they live. Because I just don't care when they're that bad of a person. I understand having flaws, but there's no vindication for them and consequences when they're the main character. So this one didn't have that necessarily, but some of the characters who were so young were very vulgar. I understand, I'm a dirty-minded person, and I've always been really open with my guy friends, and that's mostly what I hung out with was dudes. But I felt like this was a little bit too far at times, a little strange for a girl to be talking with guys like this or to be that open with her guy friends. It felt a little unrealistic to me, and the author is, obviously not a young little girl. So I felt maybe that was just he didn't have that perspective. But, that's just my opinion. It doesn't really matter. But overall, I recommend it. It went on sale, I think, in September, so this has already been out. I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Let me double check. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars, so it's still pretty good. I liked it. All right, the last thing that I read this month was volume 1 of Waiting for Spring. This is by Anashin, and this is the first volume of I think 13 or 14 volume series that I am absolutely going to have to read. I was very worried. You guys know this has been on my TBR for months, and I've been scared to pick it up because I think it's cute and everything, but I'm terrified of basketball, not basketball particularly, but sports manga or sports anime, because I've never been able to get into one. They are too much for me. I don't care about sports. I never really have. I played basketball when I was like in second grade, so I just don't care about sports. I was in band and it's just not a thing I care about. So I don't know. I thought I wasn't gonna like it because I thought maybe it might be a little too sports centric, but it wasn't. And I really liked it, and I hope it stays about this level of basketball in it because I don't want it to be too about the sport. I like it to be about the romance and the friendships. And this was really cute. I gave it 5 stars. It's a story about this girl who's very antisocial and scared to meet new people. And she moved to the school to try to start over and make new friends and just be a new person, but she ended up falling back into the same patterns of acting and not being outwardly open to new people. She ends up making friends with this team of basketball players, and they pick on her, and they're kind of mean sometimes, and they say things they probably shouldn't, but they're also teenage boys, so it feels kind of realistic. But it's really cute, and their friendship starts swelling, and then there might be a relationship swelling, and then it's really cute, and I cannot wait to read this. It was very wholesome, and I really, really want to pick up the second volume right now. Highly recommend this, by the way. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching this wrap up. I hope you read some really good books this month. I really like what I read. I think that I had a pretty good month so far, and I can't wait to start up for next month. So I'll be filming my TBR today, right after this, and I'll see you then. Have a fantastic week. Bye, guys.